Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and since it's Women's History Month, I'm here today to talk to you about Desperate Housewives, Season 1, Episode 1, the pilot. So, I've actually never really talked about Desperate Housewives on my channel. I've mentioned it briefly when talking about Pretty Little Liars and Mistresses, but I've never truly ever talked about like Desperate Housewives, which is ironic. This is one of my favorite shows. But at first, it didn't used to be. At first, I was boycotting this show. See, back when this show aired, all the way back in, I think, 2003 or 2004, probably 2003. Man, it's been a long time. Like, I didn't want to watch the show because I thought it was just going to be like some boring, like, female type show and like, like Desperate Housewives. I don't want to hear about housewives who are desperate. I thought it was going to be like one of those like foo-foo type shows or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And then I made the mistake, but also a miracle happened when I was flipping through like TV. You know how guys are. We just flip really fast through channels and we know what's like on when we just land on it for like a second and then move on. And then I think I was watching something on Lifetime. I don't know what it was. And then right before they was about to do like the fourth season of Desperate Housewives on Lifetime, they decided to do a recap of season 1 through 3. And so this was back, when they used to have reruns on TV shows and they were about to do the fourth season, but they wanted to get people caught up. And so I didn't feel like flipping it for whatever reason. I just stayed with it. And then I started watching what happened on season 1 through 3, and I just started chuckling. I started laughing. I'm like, this is actually hilarious. I thought it was gonna be like a boring, like drama with a bunch of like women, like and housewives and talking about boring stuff I didn't want to hear about. And it was actually really hilarious. And then I noticed, I'm like, hold up, is that Terry Hatcher from like Superman and no, what was it? Superman, The Adventures of like Clark and Lois or whatever it's called. I'm like, it is. And I'm like, wait, is that Marsha Cross from Melrose Place? And then that, like, I think his name is Doug Smith, also from Melrose Place. I'm like, no way, I remember them. So like I started like watching the recap. I'm like, oh, I'm totally hooked. And so I started watching like, the reruns of season 4. And season 4 is one of my favorite seasons. And it's actually one of the really last great seasons because season 4 is the shortest season because they was doing a writer's strike. And so some people like it, some people don't. And then at the very end, they did like that 10 or 15 year time jump. And ever since they did that, the show has never been the same. And ratings started to decline. Like season 1 had like 10 million, season 2 had like 9 million. 3 and 4 was around 8 million or so, but then by season 5 it went to like 5 million, and after that it started going to like 4 and 2 and stuff like that. So the show never recuperated from that time jump. And so like, I only actually have season 1, 3, 4 on DVD. 2 is okay, 5 is okay. Everything after that I just don't like. But I contemplated buying the last 8th season on DVD, but I don't know if I will or not. It gets a little sad because 2 of the actresses died in real on the show and in real life. And one died because she knew she had this disease, cancer. And so I guess she asked for it to be put in the storyline, I guess. And so then after a couple of weeks after it aired, knowing she died of cancer in real life, it's just really sad. And so like also I had to rewatch season 8 because I don't know if I really like it that much like I used to, but whatever. And so like after when I was like rewatching season 4, getting ready for season 5 in actual production time, I'm like, man, I want to watch this show. So like I found it on YouTube. I'm like, thank God. So like they was also like, doing reruns of season one and season two. So on Lifetime, I was catching up on reruns of like season one and two. And then on season three, I found on YouTube at that time. So I was like all caught up. And so, yeah. But I've never actually talked about like this show, which is a crying shame and everything. Because this is such a good show. The way it's written, the way it's directed, the way it's paced, the way it's acted. Like the stars are so great. And like, it's really not what you think. It's about like murder mysteries and all this quirkiness. And it's just so fascinating. Mark Cherry really did create a good show. I'm not throwing my camera. He is controversial because of the whole Nicolette Sheridan firing. Did he really hit her? Did he not? But yeah, he did create a good show. However, he's never been able to truly recapture that magic. He did Devious Maids, and I heard that show kind of struggled and didn't last that long. I haven't watched it yet. I don't know what he's up to now or what he's been creating now. But he based some of this off of his actual life. When you watch the Lynette Scarville stuff, in season one when the kids are younger, that's like how he grew up and stuff. Then when you get to the Bree stuff with the teenagers in like season two, that was taken from like his life and stuff. From the complications he had growing up being like a young gay person and living with a very strict mother and stuff. And so like, I don't know, man. It's just that time jump, in my opinion, really ruined things. Cause like one of the things that helped make the show so cool were like the young stars. They were like teens, and then when the time jump happened, they had to be like adults, even though some of them were still teenagers in real life. And then they started writing them off the show, and then they started randomly killing off characters like the Walking Dead and stuff. But it's just they never been able to recuperate after that time jump. And then they killed off this one main character. It was like, what the world? But then we found out she got fired because of some heat with the creator. And nobody never really talks about this show. There is one YouTuber who did like a deep dive on every season, and that's so great that she did it. But like she didn't go into like a lot of behind the scenes stuff because she just now discovered this show, and so I guess she watched it on streaming and whatever like information she can find. But when you have the DVDs and you listen to Mark Cherry's commentary, you learn a whole lot more. Like Colonial Street is actually Wisteria Lane. It's like a backdrop inside the studio. You can kind of tell the pavement don't look real and the grass don't look real. But the buildings, oh man, they created some nice buildings that appeared in other shows and other movies. And also when it comes to YouTube, the only thing you can really find on this show is the unaired pilot, which is cut up into small little clips, and like the heat from backstage heat the show had. Like, mainly there's a rumor going around that Terry Hatcher was very difficult to get along with. It's a rumor, who knows if it's true or not. And some other stuff with the whole Nicolette Sheridan and Mark Cherry type stuff, and yeah. And also how they wanted to get rid of Mike from like season one, but they kept him because he was like a fan favorite. But they kept trying to get rid of his character in other seasons in other ways, but the fans just would not let that dude go. And so like, yeah, I will one day talk about like season one, three, and four, and then I might just do like a brief rundown review, which won't be like my normal rundown reviews because I haven't watched this show since it's been on, and there's some things I have forgotten about, like a lot of the characters, and so yeah. And so this pilot starts off with a woman named Mary Alice Young, and we get introduced to her. And she's now played by Brenda Strong when she wasn't before in the original pilot. And so we get narrated by her, and we actually get to see her, and we get to see the stuff that she's doing, talking about how she's a housewife and she's doing this and that. Pretty much in this show, in the first season, All the housewives in this show are your old-fashioned traditional type housewives. They just attend to the house and they don't do nothing else. They don't work, and their husbands pay for the luxurious houses and their lavish lifestyles and stuff like that. Which, today that has changed a lot. And so I'm really am assuming that if like younger people like millennials and stuff and Gen Z were to watch this show now, they would probably be offended that all these women are just living off their husbands and not trying to do anything for themselves. That's my theory and everything. But anyway, so we get to see her and stuff like that. And we don't know exactly what's going to go on. And then we end for the hugest shocker of our lives. She pulls out a revolver and she takes her own life. And it's like, holy crap. The first person we get introduced to just so happens to be the woman who takes out her own life. But apparently something bad happened and she doesn't want to live with the consequences and stuff. But this was a very bold, shocking move because you assume she's our main protagonist because we get introduced to her first. But they pulled a scream on us with the whole Drew Barrymore thing. Very, very, very clever. And it gets people hooked into the show. And so because of that, we get introduced to Martha Hubert, who is the town gossip and everything. And this woman is extremely nosy where she's in everybody's business. And the actress who plays her to perfection. She was the wife to Jay Jonah in the Spider-Man, Sam Raimi movies. She was also Abe Lincoln's wife in that one television show I talked about last year during Black History Month that got canceled after a couple of episodes and stuff. She is a really good actress. And so nosy as she is, apparently she preps for stuff like this. She will ask for a person's possessions, to borrow, like a blender. And she'll keep it without giving it to them. And so when something happens to where she needs to go to their house, she pretends that she's just returning it. How quirky is that? I was not expecting this show to have so much humor and quirkiness to it. So of course she sees Mary Alice with on the ground and there's blood everywhere. And I'm surprised they showed this much blood. And on ABC of all things. So of course she calls 911 and she has a devastated look on her face. So you think she's all devastated, but no, she's just thinking about how now she gets to keep the blender as she rips the name tag off it. What in the world? And then so now we get introduced to the rest of our protagonists and stuff. 4 desperate housewives, and there's not a leader in the sense, but many people associate Susan, played by Terry Hatcher, as kind of like the leader because she has so many scenes. And because of the way she plays her in this like bubbly, nice, friendly kind of way, you assume she's kind of like the leader of like, the show. Even the show ends with her driving away and it's like the last person you see. And so like, I guess I'll get into her character first. She is a divorcee. Her husband, they live together. Apparently her thing is she cannot cook. She is the worst cook ever. And her food always tastes both burnt and undercooked at the same time. She is an artist. She has one child at this point in time named Julie. Julie was the youngest of all the kids on the show at this time. She was like a preteen and then later became a teen. And then while she was in her teen years, had to play an adult. And so Julie was always my favorite young person on the show. She was just like great. And a little spoiler warning, I was so pissed when they wrote her character off. But like I told you before, they wrote all the kids off the show to make way to a bunch of new young kids that didn't have that same vibe as the older ones and stuff. And so like, her husband Carl was just like a cheater and stuff. And it talks about how she makes macaroni and cheese. That's like her thing. and how she made it the night they got, I think, like anniversary or marriage, something like that, when she found out he was cheating, and when he told her, like, he was leaving her for his younger secretary. And I love how Mary Alice, like Brenda Strong, narrates, because she narrates the entire series, even though her character's been dead since the couple of minutes of the pilot. And I love how she's like, she burnt it when he told her that he was gonna leave her for his secretary. And I love the way how she says she burnt it, because it's like a play on word of her saying she lost it when he like left her and stuff like that. I love how clever the writing is. So they're having the wake and everything for Mary Alice. So they're all heading to the Young house, which is Paul Young, the husband, and Zachary Young, the son. And so, like, when she's there, she meets a man named Mike Delfino. He's new in the neighborhood, but he went to the wake anyways, and he's a plumber. These two instantly hit it off. And the way she acts, she's so young, so vibrant, so bubbly and everything, that you just can't help but to fall in love with her character. And so she is really taken by Mike. But there's competition in the form of Edie Britt. And Edie is known as the whore of like Wisteria Lane. She sleeps with anybody and every man she can get her hands onto. She's a divorcee as well. She has one son who she does not take care of. She's kind of like the evil, desperate housewife of the show, but who later comes like a frenemy and stuff. Nicolette Sheridan plays her to perfection. But Nicolette was very frustrated with the show because she got tired of being the villainess of the show. And so she always thought of herself as the fifth like housewife and stuff, even though she's really not. And so at some point, I guess with that frustration, they started writing her character somewhat nice, but keeping her in her villainous type ways. And so Edie sees this new man in the neighborhood, and she has set her eyes on him. And so now it's a competition between both of them. And it's even to the point where Edie want Mike to like check out her pipes and this and that. And so Susan, like, crap, I can't compete with Edie, you know what I'm saying? Because she dresses very provocative and stuff. But Julie has like a card up her sleeve in the form of Julie. Julie helps her mom out and basically take care of her mom, even her dating life. When she sees that, her mom likes Mike, she kicks her ball in his yard and she strikes up a conversation with him so that her mom can use in idle conversation. He has a dog. Now, what's interesting that I learned from the DVD, from the creator, is that when they have a dog on the show or any other kind of pet, they get paid more money because it's on weird animal law and stuff like that. And so I don't know why more shows don't do it. They can get more money for their budget. So anyways, she goes over there to like, get Mike to like strike up a conversation, but Edie's over there. So she lies and says she has a clog in her pipes. So Mike gets her tools and she runs very fast. And her and Julie are trying to clog up the sink as fast as they can. Hair, peanut butter. But Susan knows she's gonna have to break her daughter's heart. Her daughter's been making a diorama of a Trojan horse made out of popsicle sticks. So in it goes into the garbage, into the sink. And her daughter is not happy. But Susan had to do what she had to do, you know what I'm saying? And so one day she hears that Edie has a man over her house and they're doing it. So Susan's kind of like, crap. Because she went over there with her measuring cup to borrow like some ingredients from like Edie. But when she hears the banging going on, she's depressed, goes inside Edie's house and starts eating Edie's chocolates and drinking her wine, only to cause a fire in the house with all the candles. Susan is the biggest klutz of this show. And with the fire ablaze, she leaves her measuring cup and she runs on out of there. Edie's house literally burns down. And this plot will come back to bite Susan in the butt, along with the measuring cup later on in the season. So as all the ladies are talking, which is weird. They're a group of four wives that like hang out and they do everything together. Yet you rarely see them together on the show. They mostly just do their own individual thing throughout the series and stuff. And so like as they're talking, they heard Edie had a man over, but then in comes Mike, and Susan is surprised because she heard that the man Edie was doing had smoke inhalation in his lungs. But it turns out Mike was at the movies and stuff. So she's happy that he wasn't banging Edie. But we find out a dark side about Mike. He calls somebody, a gangsterist type man. And we see Mike has a gun. There was a reason that sent Mike to Wisteria Lane. And that will, of course, be revealed in later on in the series. And also this season. Let's get to Bree Vanderkamp, played by Marsha Cross. I love this actress when she was on Melrose Place, and I was so pissed they killed her character off on Melrose Place. And I got to see her in this, and so I was thrilled and happy. Bree is perfect. Literally, she tries to be the most perfect woman, the most perfect housewife mother she can possibly be. She cleans her house like crazy. She cooks, and when she cooks to perfection, the way Chef Ramsay will cook. And so because of this, her family does not like that. There's no room for error in her house. There's no dirtiness in her house. She's kind of like Monica from Friends. And so, like, because of this, her son is one of her biggest, like, villains and stuff. He wants a normal dinner. He wants pork and beans with hot dogs, and that's it. He doesn't want cuisine type food, which she makes, like, Chef Ramsay 5-star type food. She is very offended by this. She's also a high-strung conservative woman, which is funny because the actress is not. She's a member of the NRA and everything like that. And talked about how, like, I think if her husband were ever to cheat on her, she would just basically shoot him or something like that. And so, like, this causes a problem with her son later on in the season and in season 2, with her being so perfect and everything like that. But it also apparently causes a problem with that of her husband. So she decides to go to Chuck E. Cheese, CC's pizza kind of place where they have like regular food and they have arcade games. They want to play, the kids want to play with the arcade stuff. She will not allow them, but the husband does. It turns out the husband has an allergy, allergicness to onions. He can't have them. So her and her husband apparently aren't getting along. You can kind of see this weird zombie-like demeanor with him when he's around his wife. And it's similar to the kids, but he mostly keeps quiet. And even when Andrew is insulting his mother, he doesn't say nothing to defend her. When he's at the restaurant, he hits a bombshell on her. He wants a divorce. And she is very shocked by this. It's to the point where she's so upset, she goes to fix him a salad. Because like I said before, they're old fashioned. She fixes the man his food and literally serves him and stuff. She's talking to Marva Hoover, who's eavesdropping and wants to get more deets and everything. And Bree does not realize she puts onions in his salad. He eats it and he starts choking. His throat closes up and he passes out. And he's all like, "Did you put onions in this?" And she's like, "No, of course not. I know you're allergic and everything." And then when he passes out, she's like, "Oh, wait." The way she does it is great. All these actresses, man, they are amazing in it. So while at the hospital, he's all like, "I can't believe he tried to kill me." And she's all like, "Well, I feel terrible about it." But then, he tells her he still wants a divorce because he doesn't like how perfect she is. He misses the woman he first met, who would get a beer, who would stay up all night, who would do crazy stuff. And he's tired of this perfect housewife whose hair doesn't even move when she turns around and stuff. Like, it's literally like, hair sprayed to like perfection and stuff. So when she goes into the bathroom, she cries and she sobs, but she doesn't let her noises come out because she puts her hand over her mouth. And you see how upset she is. But then, as the narration says, when she left the bathroom, she's perfect. Once again, like a Disney princess, like floating out and everything. And this is what he hates and stuff. Gabrielle Solis, played by Eva Longoria. Boy, this is my first time ever seeing her on screen and stuff. Now, every time her and her husband first appear on screen, twice in this season, this episode, it's accompanied by Latino music because they are Mexican. When you listen to the commentary, you know that Mark Cherry said that he never done it like after this because both stars let him know it's very offensive to only associate the only Mexican stars on the show with that of Mexican music. And they're right. Like if they if they were to have a black person in the first season, which they don't, that happens in second season, they would have been accompanied probably by R&B or hip hop music, which thank God in the second season that does not happen. And so like basically she is one of the most desperate housewives of them all. She literally married for money. That's the type of person she is. Because she had an abusive relationship with her father that they will explain in later seasons. And so like with her, their house is probably the most fanciest of all. They literally have a table that's been engraved and made in Italy that was imported, and it's worth thousands of dollars. Carlos is a brute. He's very mean in season 1. He is a shark of a businessman. And so like he is just like cruel and stuff, and he's always angry at her, and he always makes it up with like jewelry. He wants to pimp her out at his boss's dinner they're gonna have, and she's all like she doesn't want to go because he's always touching her butt, and he's all like, this man helped make us hundreds of thousands of dollars. If he wants to touch your butt, let him touch it, because I'm just gonna buy you another like necklace full of diamonds and stuff like that anyways. And they have a gardener named John, and he's always shouting at John when John doesn't like do his job correctly. There's a bush that Carlos wants gone, the grass hasn't been cut that well and stuff like that. Well, it turns out that Gabby is having an affair on Carlos with the gardener, a teenage boy of all things. When this happened, I really didn't think much of it. I think I was this came out in 2003. So I was in my early 20s at that time. And I just didn't even think nothing of it at that time. It didn't even cross my mind that she's sleeping with a minor, which is now what you see in so many teen dramas and stuff. And it's really gross and disgusting. The reason why she sleeps with John isn't to feel young, it's to feel appreciated. She doesn't feel appreciated by her husband, but she only does it with like him. And the fact that he's younger does kind of make her feel a little bit more younger at sometimes and stuff. And because these women are like in their 40s and stuff. And so like there's one extremely hilarious scene that I saw in the recap that made me love this show. When he goes outside for the dinner to leave the house, he noticed his grass hasn't been cut. He wants a different gardener. She doesn't want a different gardener for obvious reasons. When they're at the party, she tells the waiter to constantly put a drink in her husband's hand. She gives him money and then she heads back home only to cut her grass at night in a cocktail dress. And it's one of the most hilarious scenes. I've never seen anything like this on television. And of course, it's accompanied by Mexican music. And I'm just like cutting the grass in a cocktail dress in the middle of the night. That's the most insane thing I've ever seen. Now, the lawnmower they have, I don't even recognize the model. I don't know if it's like a rich fancy kind or what, but I just don't recognize it. Lynette Scarvo. She is played by Felicity Huffman. Yes, that Felicity Huffman. The one with the giant college scandal where she bribed the heads of like the college to put her kid into school. Which, look, if your kid ain't smart enough to get into a fancy school, they just not smart enough to get into a fancy school, period. But you don't have to bribe people when there's so many other people having to get financial aid and loans in order to go to college. I mean, that really made me look down on her because she used her celebrity privilege just to help her kid out, which was messed up. But at least I tell you this right here right now. Even though I'm still disappointed in her, at least she handled it like a professional when she went to prison and stuff. Unlike Aunt Becky from Full House, who acted like a celebrity on like a press tour and everything. And so like the Aunt Becky woman, she just did not care. She let people know, look, I'm rich, I'm famous, I do what I want. That was disgusting. But Lynette is actually my favorite housewife because sorry, my battery died out. Because they give the actress a lot of dramatic, good stuff to act with. She's probably the best dramatic actress on this entire series. So she became like my favorite. But I'm so disappointed in her now. Like, ugh. But anyways, her whole thing is she used to work in corporate and stuff until she got pregnant. And her husband told her, played by Doug Smith, I believe his name is, from Melrose Place, that, hey, why don't you stay home and be a housewife and I'll just work? So he's always on trips and businesses and stuff like that. And she is stuck with two twin boys, a newborn baby, and just a regular boy who's probably like a year older than the twins and stuff, or a year younger. I think he's a year or two younger than the twins. So she has a total of four kids. And the twins and the other son, Preston, I think his name is, they are a handful. They are bad. They are rowdy. You can tell them boys had a blast playing on that show. They just got to be the most destructive people you ever got to see. And so they're always causing like problems. And of course, the baby, is having like, being a baby. And so like she cannot take it. She's overly stressed out. Now remember, Mark Cherry's younger days was based off of this, and she cannot handle the stress, and you can totally see it on her face. It's even to the point where she hates taking them places because they act like fools when they're out in like the grocery store. They will take like a cart and they'll just go on their own, the kids will, and they'll just start like throwing tons of stuff in there. They took the grocery cart and they shoved it into an old lady who fell down. And when they're at the wake and everything, they pre-planned playing in the pool. She said you can stand by the pool. They took this as they can play in the pool and had their swim trunks. I can't say it. Swim trunks like underneath their regular like church clothes and stuff. So they're playing in the pool and they refuse to get out. So after people advise Lynette of this, she decides to give some man her baby and just head into the water and get her kids. Like, it is hilarious with that entire family in season one. But then the husband comes back home from like his trip. She has not seen him in forever. The house is a mess. She has baby food all over her. But of course, he wants to do her. And she's happy because she wants to do him. Well, he said that, she tells him that, she's off the pill. And so they're going to have to wear a condom. He said, let's risk it. This does not sit well with Lynette. They already have four kids, a newborn baby, and she does not want a new child. So what does she do? She socks him in the jaw, Will Smith style. Not a slap. She punches the crap out of the husband to where he passes out. Now we get to Paul Young, who is not a desperate housewife, but is the husband of Mary Alice, who killed herself. And while at the wake, he overheard the other housewives talking about how they didn't see no red flags. She seemed perfect. What could have caused this? What happened in their marriage? As he's listening, you can see the angry look on his face. Then, in the middle of the night, his son Zachary wakes up to hear the sounds of somebody shoveling. The narration said it's the sounds of secrets. He's only heard this once when he was younger. And there we see that same pool that Lynette's sons were playing in completely drained. And there we see him digging a hole into like the pool. He's either bury something or he's gonna retrieve something. And it's like, what in the world happened that caused his wife to like kill herself? And what exactly, why is he digging up the pool? It's like the biggest mystery of the entire season because there's a lot of stuff that revolves around their family and murder. And so he had the housewives, like, go through Mary Alice stuff so they can, like, get rid of it. But he couldn't do it himself. In there, they find a letter tucked away in some clothes. And the letter literally said, you disgust me and all this other stuff. I'm going to tell you a secret. Nobody knows what that secret is. I'm paraphrasing what the letter says. I don't have my computer with me right now. And so, what exactly happened that this person blackmailed Mary Alice with? That blackmail is what caused her to take her own life. So this was really fascinating to a lot of people. It's just not like a drama or comedy, but it was a murder mystery of all things, which one of the housewives said in the commentary. She doesn't like the murder mysteries of the show. She'd rather just like do the quirkiness and the drama type stuff without the murder mystery, because she doesn't feel like it's fun, like, to play on that type of stuff. I don't care. That's what got me hooked into the show. So yes, this was a very fascinating, very different show of its time. Other shows, once this show got canceled, ABC has tried to replicate with Pan Am, Mistresses, Good Country Bellas. The closest ABC has ever come to replicate this show is Pretty Little Liars that they put on ABC Family, later Freeform, and Mistresses on later on ABC. A lot of people want them to go back to Desperate Housewives. There's no way they can do a revival with all the housewives together. So this is the part I'm just gonna spoil right here, right now. Basically, in the finale, we learn all the housewives go their separate ways and they never see each other ever again. And of course, that was set in the future with a fast forward. So yeah, and you can't go back in the past for them 10 years that we missed because now they're older looking now. And so the show tried to do like get like another season with like a spin-off reboot of like another murder mystery in the finale, but that didn't take off. And so yeah, the housewives that we know that are groups of friends that hang out all the time, they never see each other no more, and nobody wants the show without them all together. And the creator literally made it that way so there would never be no type of revival of this show. Now, of course, you could go on the individual lives of those housewives and give them their own individual show, now set around the time the show is supposed to be in the future. But would it really pay off? I think they could do it. But will some of them want to go back? Who knows what really happened all behind the scenes for all that drama and stuff. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.